Yeah, 10:45. Been running around like a headless chicken all day, but we're finally getting to the point where I can do some work. We had a lot of moving around this morning, so I just got a tank mixed up in the sprayer. I'm gonna set you guys up. I gotta unfold and we're gonna start spraying. Let's see if I can find a spot for my mount. Maybe behind me. Hang on. Oh, I got it. Let's try this. Then at least I can see what I'm doing. In theory. Okay. That should work, I think. This will be annoying as hell because that rattles. I got to turn on my agitation for. Come on. And we'll get the booms out. So yesterday we had a really, really good day. I was down south. I was thinking about going live yesterday, but down south isn't very good cell coverage. You can get good cell, not great data. Why is that so low? Why is that turned off? So, okay. There, that's better. I don't know why with this auto boom, it seems like it's a lot smoother when you run it without the center rack enabled. That's right. That's right. That's doing its thing. This is set up. Okay, I think we're good to go. So I sprayed about 900 acres yesterday, give or take 20. I didn't do the actual math. That's a good day for us, not spectacular. It's easy to have good days like that when you're doing low rate. So we're only putting down 5 gallons right now. Dad sprayed some of this just to finish off the tank around the yard here. Go around this little bit. And so we can do a lot more than that. I think my best day ever was like 1,300 acres. But that kind of requires us to have the spray trailer parked in a good spot and a good central location, or somebody running the semi. And yesterday we had, oh, there's a pheasant. Zach and Dad were both running arrows yesterday, so they had a good day too. They probably hammered out close to 1,000 acres. I had to do a lot of running back and forth. Only about 4 miles from my fields to where we had the spray trailer parked, and it's nice to have it parked. I have an autofill set up where it just does its own thing. I think after I do this headland, I'll move it so you guys can see me. Maybe once I get to the north end here. My autofill is just a float and a solenoid valve, and it just, you hook it up to 110 power, and you just leave your water source running. We use well water for the most part. Here's a rock that flipped up. The nice part about that is you're never out of water, and I can do 900 acres on my own fairly easy. If we were doing everything right around Dad's here, I could probably do 1,100. Probably even more than that. My one field that I did first yesterday is a lot of windy, going around bluffs and stone piles and sloughs, and a lot of bluffs. And yeah, it's just a lot slower. Here, we'll get you guys moved. I think that'll work. Take another approach at this. So right now we are right at, we call it the home corridor. Technically we're on the opposite side. If you can see that fence line right there, that's our home corridor. We rent, I don't know, it's like 24 acres adjacent to it. Where I built the vineyard, I subdivided some land out from the neighbor because I didn't want to put on leased or whatever land you want to call it, leased or rented. So yeah, we had a really good day. I could have had better if I had that tender trailer parked in a central location or somebody following me around. However, we only had 3 tanks of water. We can have 4. 4 tanks of water at the rate we're going right now is about 1,000 acres. And just under. Actually, you could get almost another tank. They're 600-gallon tanks, but usually you can't get the bottom 150 out of each. So say 1,600 times, or sorry, let's do 1,400 times 4. If my math is right, that's 5,600 usable gallons, which is 1,100-ish, 1,125. We can do better. If it was right here, and I was just running back and forth, I don't think there's any doubt I could do 1,200 because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 quarters, all within 2.5 miles of the farm. So we can get a lot done with just, hopefully that's not too shaky, with just having the sprayer trailer parked, and then somebody else that could freeze off a guy to do something else. We were doing some disking. Dad was running the disc for a bit, but we kind of got caught up with that, and we do have 2 sets of harrows. We have a set of heavy harrows and a set of mid harrows. Both are 70 feet. We've kind of got it set up backwards at the moment. Usually you'd want to run the heavier stuff on the heavier tractor. Not that 70 feet of harrows is a hard pull for the 2375. It's really not at all. But we've got the old Borgo mid harrows on the Delta track, and the heavy harrows on the, we just didn't want to change on the 2375. So what we're doing right now is just killing weeds. I've got a tank mixed up of, it's essentially old chemicals. Roundup, glyphosate, whatever you want to call it. It's actually generic glyphosate, so that'd be more accurate. Kind of like saying Kleenex is actually a facial tissue. If you're a fan of How I Met Your Mother back in the day, there was a big argument on that, about the technicalities. Kleenex would be the name brand, as would Roundup, but the actual product is glyphosate. Now, it's a bit controversial. We do our best not to spray, especially in the wheat. I don't like spraying glyphosate on it for desiccation. If I'm going to desiccate, I usually run a desiccant, which is like Reglone or Dipot. and I just do the kosher patches because desiccant doesn't work very well on a cereal. So in the tank right now is glyphosate and 2,4-D. We're doing a liter an acre equivalent, which if you're going to vibrate all the time, that's going to be annoying. I apologize in advance if this is kind of vibrating. I am doing up to 14 mile an hour. So glyphosate is measured kind of weirdly. In Canada, obviously, we use liters as much as possible. Not to say we don't use ounces, because I'm going to get into that in a second. But you do your math based on original Roundup, which was 360 grams of glyphosate salt per liter. Now everything is higher concentration. They took one of the surfactants out, and it's a higher concentration of 540, so it's 1.5. And that gives you, it looks like it's vibrating really bad to me. Please let me know if it is. I might be able to move it into a different spot that's not so bad, maybe. I don't know. Whoops. This little chunk here with the 25 acres, I usually just hand bomb this. So I don't have my hands fully free yet until I do a couple laps of the headland on the other side, and I'll hit an AV line. Anyways, glyphosate. Used to be 360 grams per liter. Now it's 540, but everybody still uses liters per acre in Canada of active. So we're putting down 0.66 liters, or 0.666, 0.67, however you want to say it. 2/3 of a liter is equivalent to 1 liter of the old stuff, of the 360. So that's what we're doing. On top of that, we're using a really old chemical, which is 2,4-D. And 2,4-D is a really great broadleaf killer. And it seems like the majority of what's growing right now is broadleaf. A lot of times we'll put down a different cocktail, but there's some, volunteer wheat in places, or foxtail barley, grassy stuff that will get killed by frost eventually. Surprisingly, we haven't had any frost to this point. Like any serious frost. We've had a couple small ones. And you can see in places where some of the volunteer canola, there's a lot of volunteer canola because of sclerotinia this year and because of the heat blast that we had. Now, we probably could have got a lot of it. I don't think it would have added up to much more than a bushel an acre, but we would have got a much dirtier sample, much more dockage in it. So we said, no, we'll leave our settings where they are, and we just have to accept it. And there's definitely places where you can see it's worse than others. This spot right here barely needs sprayed, but if these weeds are going to eat away at our leftover fertility, such as the NPKs and microbes, we're just going to maybe save ourselves a couple of bucks, or I shouldn't say save, have a couple dollars worth of fertility left in the soil rather than letting the weeds eat it. Then on top of that, we have some more stubborn weeds that are some of it is resistant, such as kochia to glyphosate. There's not a lot of kochia growing anymore. There is some thistles. Canada thistle is a perennial, so it will come back to haunt us if we don't spray it out. Usually the Roundup will knock it back, but to throw in some 2,4-D, it'll have some action on that. And the 2,4-D, we're putting in at a reduced rate because you need to give it time for everything to break down and digest. Or digest isn't the proper term. I'm gonna go across this water pasture. It's a overflow run here. But the 2,4-D, we sort of still measure it in fluid ounces per liter, per acre. We're putting in 60 acres per jug because they say it should take about 1 month to break down 1 fluid ounce of 2,4-D. And if it's in the soil, it can have a little bit of a residual effect as far as, here, let's get, sorry about that. Luckily nobody's here to see. Vibrating is bad. I don't think it is. It seems to be okay. I just don't like it there. I think it's just the door is vibrating worse than anything. So the 2,4-D breaks down at a rate of approximately 1 fluid ounce per month. So we're putting it on at about 4 ounces an acre. So that way we're good and safe in the spring, that we don't have any residual chemical acting in the ground. It's good to rotate your chemicals. It's really nice to spray the same thing over and over because you know it, but at the same time, that's how you get resistance to weeds, and then you get all sorts of problems. You will still get resistance. Oh, is that nice having that fence line out of there? Zach and I pulled that fence line out in the spring. So, anyhow, the main pests we're going after: volunteer crop, new growth weeds, and frost will kill both of those. But how soon and how much of a mess it makes of the field is the big question. And the other is some bigger stuff. We have roundleaf mallow that's starting to be a problem. It's not, from what I can tell, it's not really resistant to anything. But we have thistles and we have a smattering of kosher. There's a good washout. Just trying to make sure this to the north of us is not our land, but we share, well, I shouldn't say we share. We share a property line with neighbors. Usually we're on the same rotation as them. So we try and spray the headland, overlap a little bit, just to make sure that there's no weeds there's no misses. And they'll do the same. They'll spray a couple feet in, we'll spray a couple feet in. And then if it's a different crop, we make sure that we're a couple feet on our side of the property line. Now, get this corner. And in this corner, I like to swing. You can see where both of us turn off. I don't know if you can see the drills. Like we swing from the corners. I just make sure we get that covered up just so there's no monster weeds in there. There is some, it looks like Garrett did the same thing already. There's some thistle in there, there's some roundleaf mallow. Something else. Kind of looks like sow thistle and maybe fireweed, stinkweed. I don't know. I'm not the world's best agronomist by any stretch of the imagination. So this time of year, we are quite busy, which is good. You get your harvest rush, where you're working a lot of 16-hour days, which is perfectly fine by me. And now we're kind of to the point where we do a lot of 10-hour days. You only work during the day, like daylight. So a lot of days you're not getting the harrows going until 10, 11 in the morning. Just want things to be dry so they don't clump up. You can see across the road, they were doing some harrowing. I'm guessing Dad did that yesterday. I don't think he's done the day before. And we're trying to do disking. We're trying to get everything sprayed, because if we spray it in the fall, we can usually save on spray in the spring, and you just get better crop emergence and everything. As far as harrowing, we like to harrow after we've sprayed, at least a couple days, to give the plants a chance to bring it into the roots, and then they're dying. And a lot of our stuff like this really didn't need to be harrowed. It was good and hot when we combined it. There are some spots where it was a little on the green side, so it probably wouldn't hurt to have it harrowed, but it just spreads out the trash nice. Any spots where you might have, there's video where I plugged her up, and when you stop the combine, it unloads in a spot. It makes a mess. So we take care of that, ideally in the fall, not always in the fall. We didn't have a chance, well, we didn't want to do any harrowing of the canola stubble last year, because a lot of it was still green. We wanted it to die off and be crunchier so that it can spread around nice. So we did all that in the spring, and that makes for tougher logistics. We do a lot of spraying and seeding, obviously, in the spring, but to have a guy freed up to run for chemical, or if we got peas, we got to roll some ground. We'll take the stone picker out, move trucks around, help fill the drill. All that stuff, if you have an extra guy for it, it makes a world of difference. So if we can harrow everything in the fall, that is perfect. And then get disking done. And usually disking's just for, we like to do perimeters. I don't know if we're going to do a whole lot of perimeters this year. I don't think it really needs it. And ruts. So, and then some sloughs that might have drowned out over the year. We'll also work those in. We've got about 1,200 acres of spraying to go. Maybe 1,500. So there's still going to be some tomorrow to do. But after that, we'll hook onto with the Delta track, we'll hook onto the disc, and we'll probably do a lot more disking up here. We did most of what we needed to down south. There is a little bit. Haven't done any out east. You can see right here, Dad did, hopefully you can see, probably not. Dad did some. And if we have time, I got a pretty busy month ahead of me, unfortunately. But that's not saying I can't do it. If the weather permits, I want to go out and do some ditching. We've got some sloughs that have just settled down and over compacted. We just need to get water moving a little better. We're not changing direction of anything. We're just fixing what is kind of broken. And filling some water runs. There's a nasty water run out here. I might try and blade back, smooth out, and then fill back in. Nothing serious. It's just, if we can have water moving a little better, on surface while the ground is still froze, I think that's the optimal solution. But I'm not saying tile isn't a solution. It's just tile doesn't help us in the spring around here. Our frost goes too deep. We'll get tile lines be plugged off with ice, and in places it will help. But I think for the most part, tile is pretty expensive, especially when you compare it to the cost of our land versus the cost of land in the corn and soybean belt in the States. And I think a lot of years it really wouldn't make a world of difference. So we're trying to get everything done, trying to get equipment cleaned up. Like I got the combines all blown out, haven't pressure washed them yet. We have, well, the sprayer's gonna need a wash. Both tractors are gonna need a wash. We wanna make sure that we can, I should spray that out. It's gonna be wheat next year. I should have done some spraying over there this year to kill it off. Never did. We ripped out that fence line. And I did it not to gain more acres. I just did it to be easier when we go around it with the drill or this guy. The drill's not a problem. It's about 90 feet to the fence line there. So I do have to fold a section of my sprayer in, which I hate doing. It's just slow. It takes, to get I doubt it's 1/10 of an acre there. Probably takes 4 minutes to stop, like 2 minutes to fold in and make sure everything's right, and then another 2 minutes to unfold. It's just inefficient versus whipping right through there. So we're doing all that, and then on top of it, we haven't had to move much for grain yet. Hopefully, I shouldn't say hopefully, I do have some to go in November. I think Dad also has some that needs to go. I'm just gonna spray that out a little bit. Maybe I'll hit it with the disc. Hopefully my other semi is back from the shop. It was having some turbo issues, and we were kind of just limping it through harvest. And on top of that, now's the time of year where you got to start looking for equipment. And we've got some stuff that definitely needs updated. Number one in my mind is the combines, both of them. Dad's has a lot more hours than I thought it did. I was thinking he only had 1,500 hours. He's up to 2,000. Mine's up to about 2,300. That's threshing hours, not engine hours. And so both of those need to get traded off. We're hoping that we can find some deals on something that's got 800-ish threshing hours on each machine. It's obviously going to cost me a lot more. My combine is 4 years older than Dad's and not spec'd out quite as nice. So I'm going to have probably another $100,000 difference compared to Dad's. And I do have more engine hours than Dad's. My combine has been around for a long time. It's actually been in this area. Dad bought it off of the neighbor a year or two before I started farming. And this is my 6th crop. So it's been with us for 8 years. And I'm pretty sure it was with Joey for a couple years before that, at least. So, yeah, it's due. And just need something a little bit bigger. We like the automation. So we're hoping for a 250 series. Whether that's 8s or 9s, we'll see in the cases. Class 8 is an 8250, obviously. And so those are priority number one. Number two for me is the 2375. We'll see what we can find. We've always had it in our heads that we should have a backup tractor, but that's just expensive. Backup to be able to pull the drill. The 2375 used to pull our old drill when we had a 60 foot and a 600 cart. Now with the 70 foot and the 1,000 bushel cart, it doesn't stand a shot at pulling that. And I don't think it's got the hydraulics for it either. So that's off that's not an option. Now it's still great for ditching, although tracks would be nicer. It could pull our grain cart, but it's really nice to have the PTO. That goes a lot faster. And a narrower stance is nice also for being A, in a shed, but B, when you're dumping, depending on the length of your auger to your header distance. We might end up with longer augers on our combines, and with the 40 foot heads, and you find augers that are for 45 foot heads, that gives you lots of room. But with the 40 on Dad's, it's pretty tight, and with the 35 foot on my combine, it's also pretty tight. So that's kind of where we're looking. Whether we get the toppers or the hydraulic fold top, I don't know. There's just a lot of features to babble on about, but we do need to upgrade them. They're getting way too many hours for my liking, and I kind of pushed mine as long as I want, or longer than I want. I was kind of planning in the off season to upgrade it, and then just the price of combines was high, the price of grain was on the way down, so I just kind of pumped the brakes on that. Number two, I said, was I kind of jumped back and forth there. Number two is the 2375. It doesn't, I think it's just around 4,000 hours. It's been a great machine to us. It's just not enough machine or too much machine for pulling harrows and the grain cart that we have, and what else? A land roller, even the ditcher or the bulldozer. It's probably more than enough for that. Now, do we look at going with a bigger tractor that if the versatile craps out for some reason, we only need to spend a day moving controllers and this, that, the other into the other machine? I don't know. Or do we go with a smaller tractor that, like a high-speed one, it doesn't have to be high speed, but like a mechanical four-wheel drive, front-wheel assist, front-wheel drive, whatever you want to call it. That would be really nice, especially for the grain cart that we have. I would like to upgrade our grain cart eventually, but it's kind of further down. It's a 4 or a 5 on our list, and obviously we don't want to do everything in 1 year. We do need to play some catch up here, but we'll see. Number 4 on the list is this guy. Now, I was sitting there going, yeah, we can just upgrade into a newer one, and Dad dropped an idea in my head this morning, saying it might just be worth doing a really good service, which this thing's due for a good service, and then buying another one. For the difference, we could have 2 similar H1s, and then in the spring, if we need, like say next spring, me and Zach both don't need to be, well, I shouldn't say that. If we're done all of the harrowing, you can hammer out a lot of acres in a day with 2 sprayers. Now, a farm our size, 5,000 acres, to have 2 sprayers is a lot, but at at the same time, when it comes down to fungicide season, it pays. So, and then you also have a backup if you have a flat tire or a major issue. Hey, we're still crushing acres, we're just not getting as many. But in fungicide, boy, is that nice to have two machines on the go. Never had that before because we never had the water trailer for it before. Now I built it with that in mind. Like I said, we got 6,000 gallons. If we have one guy running it, and we can set up spare tanks or a pump near a dugout or whatever, one guy, one hired hand can run the. What did I hit? I hit something with my finger. One guy can run that sprayer trailer. So that's a really interesting thought. We might look into it. And it might not even need to be as fancy as this guy. If it's just, maybe we find one that's 100 foot instead of the 120. We will need the same display. I was talking to a guy this morning, because then they can talk to each other. That would be really nice to have coverage maps shared. I don't know how much that is going to cost us. Those are the big ones that we need to look at upgrading. We have other stuff that we need or want to add, such as our new grain trailer. We need remote gates on. We don't need them, but I love them. And it came with, it's kind of the opposite of the Timty. It came with the hopper augers, and we're thinking that could be really good to speed up our fills, and maybe we gain an extra 30, 40 acres a day having the hopper augers, so that we're not having to move the conveyor or dance the semi around. Now the Timty would need to have the hopper augers installed on it, and both semis would need wet kits, hydraulic power kits. So that would also need to happen. So lots of potential winter projects. A lot that I can do. And I like doing winter projects. I wish we had a better shop. That's a few years down the road. Had I committed to farming earlier, Dad said he would have built one on the farm, but and it would have been probably half the cost or less, and already paid off. But that's the way it goes when you don't know. So the big questions are how much are we gonna upgrade this year? Now, I don't think we need to upgrade the grain cart. It would be nice. I don't think it's necessary right now. I say that now. Maybe we find one. Maybe we don't. I don't know. For the cost of going to a bigger grain cart and newer, if we were to go new, we could buy another older semi and older grain trailer for that price, which might be just as good, if not better. That 2375, we've been dragging our heels on it for a few years. Let's do that water run, and then I'll get some AB lines going. I think we seriously have to look at upgrading the 2375. So those three, if you want to say two combines, and that are the top of our list right now. It being over there. Have to double back on this. Up here, up along the hills, we have a lot more little water runs and washouts like this. Down south, it's more potholes is the problem, and sloughs. Very different land. that's where my mind is right now, is just kind of figuring out what's kind of going to be the cost per acre. Another thing that is, now that I think about it, is likely to happen, if we upgrade our combines, I would guess Dad will upgrade his header. He's still running a 35 foot because we've been running it on my combine because it doesn't have the big lift cylinders. So that's another spec that we got to make sure we get, is combines that are spec for 40 or 45 feet. So he would upgrade his header as well, which isn't a huge cost. I don't think he would go to a FD 240. I'm thinking but he might. It's really nice to have them the same. Then you got spares that you can move between. You never know, you might find a good deal on one too. Let's just cut this here. This, that. The other thing I've been thinking about is not so much farming related, but farming YouTube related, is if anybody's got stuff they want me to look into, as far like make a video of. It's not that I'm running out of ideas, it's that I'm actually getting ideas. Finally doing an AB line. But we, as farmers, I saw a video recently, I think it was from Barn Talk, and they kind of mentioned how, like, what's wrong with farming, or farmers, and a big chunk of that is the image of farming, where there's massive ones and then the small ones, and nobody's doing it right. But it's the news, it's the reporting. Everybody's bashing on farmers these days. It seems to be easy to do. I know there's some controversial stuff out there, such as monocrop agriculture or certain pesticides. Pesticides is probably too generic, but whether it's herbicides or insecticides, herbicides being Roundup, certain insecticides everybody's saying about the bees. I don't know a whole lot of it, but I will dig into it, give you my opinion on it. Like, one of my big opinions is Roundup's not nearly as bad as it sounds, but I'm sure it's not the best thing for you. I think everything in excess is bad for you. But this feels, off topic. We've been farming it north and south for a long time because that's the way the water wants to run. And there's, right there, there's a lot of tracks and compaction and whatnot. So we started trying to, we like to go east-west with our canola as much as possible. That's just, if we ever have to swath it, it's just a lot smoother, and it's not smoother because it's east and west. In this case, it's not. It's prevailing winds are east and west, so we try and have our swath the same direction as much as possible. Anyways, yeah, this is getting rough over the years. I am looking at some different soil treatments that I'm going to have a bit of a trial on next year. That is something I'm probably going to do a lot of filming and try and science it up as much as I can around compaction. So I'm hoping to get it like a soil compaction probe. Oopsie. Turned early. And, you know, with the climate field view, be able to map it and have overlays. But continuous cropping is not the best for soil compaction. There's another one we can talk about, continuous cropping, zero till. I even think that full tillage, unless you're doing some ripping, like deep tillage, you're not removing that compaction. The top 6 inches is, yeah, you're probably removing all that compaction, but the stuff that's really bad is the stuff that's made it down to 1 foot, 18 inches. And I think that's why we're having a lot of water issues. Potentially, somebody had made an argument about a lot of disease because the pathogens can't get worked in or drained out. I see that as a reason we're having kochia problems in our salinity. I should back up. We're having salinity problems in these areas where it gets very compacted, very hard from the calcium and the magnesium being very hard, and kochia likes that, and it makes it really hard for crops, especially canola, to compete in that. So I'm going to try a couple, well, at least one product for sure, and I'm going to try it in some low spots, and then I'm also going to try it, I'm also going to try it in just in the middle of a field, and see if there's a compaction difference, as well as see if there's a yield difference, and probably year over year see if there's yield difference. So we're looking at a product. I'm not going to say it just yet, in case I decide to change, but the one that's at the top of my list right now has some humic acid, some aminos, and a couple other things, as well as a little bit of kelp. And the idea is that it will essentially fluff up the soil. It'll remove compaction. So one of the problems with that particular one is that you can't tank mix it with anything. It's a standalone. So I think ideally the way they talk is you would do it in the fall, but you still can do it in the spring. It's not like it takes too long to work its way in. The other bonus of it is it's supposed to help mobilize a lot of your fertility. So I don't know. If anybody's got any experience with what I'm going to call chemical tillage, maybe, let me know if there's a chemical that's worked for you. Because I've heard a lot of good things about this particular one, but until I get more info on it, I had a meeting with the salesman 2 days ago. There's currently no distributors in our area, which is not a big deal. Try not to wreck a boom here. They said I could buy through a different distributor and they would organize delivery. Well, I get online. Come on. There you go. I lost my train of thought there. Oh, so I had the meeting with the salesman, but their agronomist is still doing harvest, and she's going to be in the area in a couple weeks by the sound of it, so I want another meeting with them before I fully decide what I'm going to do. I just like to compare I haven't really talked about what I got going on in the cab here. I got to do a lap of this slough, and then I'll talk on it. I would really love to fill this slough. There's 2 sloughs on this entire piece. And and then that washout that needs some attention. But we'd be able to do, it's not like down south. Some of the fields are a lot of stuff to go around. And I don't need everything to be wide open. We do have sectional control on the drill, which seemed to work very well for the most part. We had a couple where we were having solar flares in the spring, and that made life interesting. You could tell some of the shutoffs weren't working at the right time, but I love that new drill. Get online and go into this. Okay, we got there. So in the cab, our main GPS and display is a Raven Viper 4. Now I really like this. I was talking with with My Precision Ag, MY, whatever they want to call it, this morning. If we do get 2 sprayers, we would, in order for them to link up, we would need another Viper 4. Or a 4 Plus, I believe. I forgot to ask that. We got busy BSing about other stuff. No. We run RTX on these so that you don't have loss of quality or not signal dilution, but you get with WAS, you have like a 15-minute repeatability. So if I have to stop in the middle of a field and run and fill, if I'm not back in 15 minutes, you can't guarantee that your line is accurate. So a lot of times you end up going and recalibrating, but on a previous pass, if you can find your tracks. I almost feel like this field needs just wall to wall. It was really wet 3 years ago, and it was peas and it got drowned out a lot, so yeah, it was gross. Anyways, we have a Raven Viper 4. I quite like it, but there are some features I don't like about it. It's quite customizable, but not spectacular. One of the features I don't like is the zoom, where you get to a certain point and then it changes its perspective. I would like to zoom out a little farther. Man, this is freaking rough. But overall, it's really good. They recommend, as in Case or anybody I've talked to, has said that if you have AIM and the Pro 700, it's almost like it's not enough computing power for it, and you can have problems. This is our AIM Pro, or they call it Pro View, for the AIM Pro, which is the pulsing solenoids, PWM, and that allows things to work at varying pressures and varying speeds, rather than being locked in on, if you have conventional booms, you'll have pressure A, let's say is 50 pounds. In order for you to get 5 gallons an acre with that set of temps, you have to go a certain speed. It doesn't allow you to, if you slow down for a rough spot, all of a sudden you're over applying. Or if you're swinging around a corner, you're over applying on your inside boom and you're way under applying on your outside boom. So I really like the AIM. It's more expensive to run for sure. This year it seemed like we had to replace 20 solenoids. We just had a bad run. I don't know if they were just at the end of their life, but yeah, we seem to have a lot of them fizzle out. This will tell us when we have one fizzle out, but this guy pretty much does nothing once you've got it set up. Now I have to tell it what kind of tips are on it and what pressure I want, because this will control which nozzles are allowed to spray. This is calling for it, but this controls it. The other thing I don't like is the overlap. It needs to be controlled on both at the same time. It's kind of funky, but it works. I've had to take this guy and shut it off as far as volume, because it will beep at you constantly. That beeping is GPS on the Raven. That's so that we know that we've canceled our auto steer. So these two are what came with the machine. Oh. Everything else over here, I've added, including down here, I've added some. So I added this guy first, which is just, there's a little kit for the Climate Field View Drive. This is Bluetooth here, and this is our data mapping. Now this collects data. This is just easier to use rather than setting up jobs and whatnot. This collects data from our seeder, everything we spray. We can remote log in and view it. As far as like, I can grab my cell phone and just start looking around at what each combine is doing, so it does collect yield from the combines. And if you were to do other stuff, say you were out floating fertilizer or banding ammonia or whatever. Even if you wanted to say that you were doing tillage, you can do that as well. And then you can have all your data in the same spot, and you can see your trials, you can put field notes. The first year I used it to mark rocks, there was too many. Way too many. That is something I would love to see. I've heard that there's a company out there trying to develop something, and I heard one was with drones, I heard another was with cameras, where it maps all your rocks, and then you could take that into your stone picker and know where your hot spots are. That I would dig for sure. So Climate Field View, we've been using it for several years. This will be our fourth. I'm pretty sure I gotta get over this. Did I finish that? Yes, I did. Don't need to go back there. I really like the Climate Field View. They have been improving it. Not as fast as I would like. They don't have all the features I've asked for. And a lot of them are not necessarily features that are, as far as mapping and whatnot. But a lot of it I would like to see is just drop-down menus. Where, I shouldn't even say menus, drop-down lists and folders. I would love to be able, like if I go into our spray, I have to go here. I guess I can't do it because it's active. But if I have a new job set up, I have a list of about 80 different sprays. I would love to have a folder, and it's burnoff, another folder in crop, another folder fall or whatever, or fungicide. And then you go into your folder and say, click on your folder, your fungicide. Okay, I'm going to go to my canola, and I've got my 2 or 3 different fungicides I might use, or especially in the herbicide, like the in-crop herbicide. Oh yeah, there's a lot of different cocktails that you can have. So it'd be really nice to go wheat. I know some guys will just save it as wheat, but then you can't view the whole line. Like it'll say wheat, but you don't know if you're doing Faro or Stellar, whatever. So there's so many different chemicals and cocktails for in-crop. It'd just be nice to shorten up and have it selected. Anyhow, it's just once you get your job set up, it just records. And you can scroll, you can view, you can... I've used it to make variable rate prescriptions for spraying. That was nice. So it's really good. It's really handy. A lot of times it's really nice to walk in. I don't use it to its full extent. I plan to use more features next year as far as scouting, where you can add notes as far as you can go in, okay, it was scouted on June 25th, and it was at 4-leaf or 6-leaf, or if you want to do the, what is it, RS 32 or whatever the hell it was for your staging, and pass. Whoa, that's bouncy there. Okay, or you get in there and go, yeah, I saw brown leaf mallow and this, and it'd just be nice to have a checklist for that rather than sitting there typing everything. Or you can sit there, yep, started noticing larvae of this species. Just really nice to track it all year, but it's also really nice to walk in and go, okay, this is what we sprayed on it last year. We spray the same, that kind of thing. So, especially if I do this trial with the liquid tillage, I'd really like to be, and you can see other things too, right? Like you can do satellite imagery and it'll generate vegetation maps. I'm sure I've seen, I shouldn't say most, but I've seen a lot of farmers that have it. I really like it. Again, features, I always want more features. I also wish, and I think they are working on getting it onto Androids, because I like Androids a lot better. I think they're a lot more powerful, and obviously a lot cheaper. The next thing I added was, I added three things at the same time. I added this was the first thing I wanted for sure, which is Simon Innovations. It's called AccuVolume. And all it is a very, very sensitive pressure transducer in the tank. And once you've calibrated it, it knows pretty much exactly how many gallons. You can see it fluctuates a bit as the product is sloshing around, and maybe I'm one side to the other. But it's not like you can just sit there and say, oh, my tank is 6 feet tall, and so every inch works out to be 0.0 whatever PSI or kPa, and you just go based off of that. Because it's oval, it's bulged in the middle, an inch of height is a lot of gallons in the middle versus very few at the top. So you calibrate it every 50 gallons or 25 gallons at the top and at the bottom, and then whatever you want to do in between. I'm pretty sure I did 100 gallons. There's a video I made of it a year or so back, maybe 2 years back. Can't remember. And we love it for several different reasons. I will never have a sprayer without some form of this. I'm pretty sure some of the newer case ones, they have it integrated into the Viper. Pretty sure, don't quote me on that. I've also heard that John Deere also does it. I'm assuming others do too, such as Agrifac or Fendt or whatever, because it's actually a very simple concept. It's just the program is a little more complex. Several reasons we like it. The biggest being that you know exactly what's left in the tank, and you're not sitting there straining over to see the sight glass that gets cloudy every year, and then you don't know how much is through. If you're ever trying to look at the sight glass, you got to be parked in the right way. And so there's a display here, and there's a display outside on our front fill. I love that, because you're sitting there trying to, you know when the top is coming. So usually we slow down for the last 75 to 100 gallons. Just go in nice and slow. And also, if you're ever doing a park tank, especially on this guy, it's worse. The 3330 you can see a fair bit better. And it also didn't have front fill. We like to do the front fill better than the side fill. It's really nice to know exactly what's in there. But like bottom 400, 600 probably, because there's the washer fluid in there. You can't really see it very well. Every now and then this thing, the tires get out of phase. What was I saying? Oh, you can't see the bottom, pretty much half of the sight box. So if I need to go and, I only need to make a 40-acre tank to finish this, and I don't want much left over, some chemical you can't spray out, especially in crop. Good example, Viper for peas. You can't do double rate. You'll really hurt your peas. So you want to be very accurate and say, oh, okay, yeah, I did 4 tanks, and each tank is 160 acres on a full fill. Well, that works great if your fields are multiples of that. But let's say I've got 360 acres. Well, I need to make a 40-acre tank. That's only 300 and some odd gallons. I can't see that at the bottom. I have no confidence in how much is in there. So you either end up short, when you're short, you've probably already added your 40 acres of chemical, but now it's going on only 30 acres, which is a little hot. Or you have extra, so now your chemical is light, and you have to dispose of it somehow. And a lot of times you just try and spray it in sloughs or whatever. It's just expensive. So that's really nice as far as mixing park tanks. Really, really, really nice. The other, and we've had it happen, Dad didn't catch it. Well, he kind of did. He knew something was off. But it was the very bottom of the tank. And he said it was going down really fast, so I shut it off. And he got out in time to shut the valve. But I sprayed out an entire tank with a leak underneath. I was using Everest, and there's strips in the field. I think I did a video on that one too, because it was leaking. And so the Viper calculates based on coverage. So right now it's saying I should have 554. I just hit fill, so it thinks that when I filled there's 1250. There's actually only 1220 in it, but I just got lazy. So it should be kind of within 30 to 50. Now, anywhere where I have overlap, I'm only spraying the nozzles that need to be, but it paints heavier, it paints based on sections. So it's usually off by a little bit. Usually this guy is at, if I have a full tank, this guy is at 0, and this guy is showing, usually the bottom of the tank, there's maybe 20 gallons off, depending on the field. If you've got a nice straight field, it'll be within 5. But the second that hits 0, you can flick that off and shut off your pump, and you won't have air in your boom. So that's really nice. But when I had the Everest blow out, I sprayed off a whole tank and had strips that were going on at probably equivalent to 70 or 80 gallons an acre. And it took 2 years to grow that out. Had I had this, and I could see, wow, that's going way down. It's already at 400 gallons, because it worked out to be almost double. I think I should have had 240 acres on that fill, and I only got like 135. But I would have said, well, this is saying I'm up at 1,000 gallons, or 900 gallons. This is saying I'm way down to, but even say it just started at the top of the tank, I could have been, well, I should still have 1,200 or 1,150 gallons. This is saying I got 1,000. Right then and there, I would know I've either blown something on a boom or on the plumbing of the tank is a leak. And I have had it where it was going down too fast. In that case, I actually left the wrong valve open and it was pumping out on the ground. The reason I knew is because I turned it on and I hadn't started spraying and I'd lost 20 gallons. It's like, that's no good. So that was a great addition. I love it, love it, love it. I've also added recirculating booms to this thing. Again, that was a video a couple years ago. It's really nice because you can get the air out of the booms. So what it does is it, instead of everything going to the booms and dead ending, it goes to the end of the booms and then returns back to the tank. And all you got to do is flick that on and it'll open the valve to do that. Still uses the same pressure, it just returns differently. And so there's no dead spots in the boom, which is really nice. So you're not getting like film or sediment at the ends of your booms. And you don't have to worry about having strips in the field where it does make it easier to clean out because you can circulate it hard with water rather than flushing each one. I still flush. I pop the valves off and I flush when I'm changing chemicals. But to turn around and do the recirculation when you have a fresh chemical, say I've rinsed out the booms with water. Normally we used to go and back up to a ditch or a bluff or something and we would spray off 15 or 20 gallons just to make sure we've got chemical in the whole boom. But with the recirculation, you're going up the road and letting that work. And so it just, you don't have a strip where it might not work. You also don't have wasted chemical because you want to make sure you're fully, you spray out, let's say 20 gallons. Well, that's, if you're doing in crop, say wheat, you're looking at $30 an acre. If I spray out 20 gallons and we're usually doing 7.5, well, that's $60 just right there. If I sprayed out 50 gallons, and we have done that because we had air in, that's with the old sprayer. Well, 50 gallons, you're talking, you're $300, $400 already that you just wasted. And then you get to the end of the field and you're short that little bit and you're kind of mad about that too. So that's been great. The final changes I made on this sprayer is I added electric valves outside on the side. I took out the manual ones, most of the manual ones, on the rinse tank, and I added my own plumbing on these two, so that you're not having to run up and down 6 or 8 times when you're flushing. To spray it out, you can turn them on from in here, rinse the booms, spray it out, rinse the tank, spray it out, rinse the booms, spray it out, and you can still spray direct water out, and then, yeah, it's really nice to clean out. So, and that also doesn't include that we've had crop damage from residual chemical because we didn't rinse it out enough. Other than that, oh, and I did put a CB radio in here. I don't think we've ever used it. So we're getting to the end here. Like I said, I'm doing 5 gallons an acre, 450. Well, I can do that math fairly simply. 400 gallons is 80 acres, another 10 for the 50. Okay. I have 90 acres, so I'm going to fill here before I run to the next field, because I know my next field is 150 acres. So rather than having to stop, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So we got a few hundred acres up there, but I know how much I need to fill in order. There's no question on exactly how much glyphosate I need in for 2,4-D. If I want to really get technical and measure it, I can get right down to it. Probably won't. Probably ballpark it a little bit. But I don't know where Dad and Zach are right now. They can't be far away. They might be tag teaming. We have a 600-acre field about a mile and a half away. Might be tag teaming that. I can't imagine they'd have much harrowing left aside from going down south, but I just finished spraying down south yesterday. So we'd like, and today's, what, Thursday? Yes. We would like to give it 2-3 days, so we'll probably not worry about harrowing until after the long weekend here. And no, really, that's all I had. Oh, I was going to talk about drones, but maybe I'll save that for a different day. I do expect to have some drones in the future. There will be a video in the next couple of weeks here coming out where I did a demo with a drone. So look forward to that. Hopefully, tune in. Oh, I picked a bad line. I got a little sliver left. I thought I had it nailed. Yeah, I do think we will have drones on the farm eventually. I don't think they're here yet. Oh, sorry, I'm kind of rambling here. When I was mentioning before about if you had any ideas for me, a few things I do plan on talking about at some point once I've had a chance to sit down and think some stuff through. And I'm not going to say plan a video out, but put some points down that I want to remember to talk on. AI in farming, and I'm not talking artificial insemination, I'm talking artificial intelligence. AI is going to be something I talk on. Chemicals, crop rotation, disease, soil health. If you know anybody you think I should talk to about that, that would be cool too. I would be open to doing a collaboration with somebody, especially like a product specialist, talking about, what's the good, the bad, the ugly, or if you know people that want to do demos. I'm always, I shouldn't say always, there's some equipment I don't see a point or a good fit for our farm to do a demo on. Like, there'd be no point in us getting a demo of a corn head. We don't grow corn. But, maybe there's this flex header versus that flex header. Maybe there's, we have the versatile fury for tillage. Maybe somebody wants to see side by side a Salford or a Pro Till or something like that. I'd be down for that. Obviously, combine. Hey, let's try a combine out, see what it works. We did a demo of a New Holland a couple years back. Really liked it. One of the biggest things with us is it's not that we're stubborn. It's just that we know this equipment very well. So that's kind of why we stick with case combines, case sprayer, versatile tractors. But if the right deal was there, we definitely change. In particular, with the 2375 versatile, we might be looking at changing brands for that if we go to a smaller, I shouldn't say smaller, because it could be more powerful. but a mechanical front wheel drive, whether that's a JCB Fast Track, a Claus, a Fendt, a Massey Ferguson, or Case, or John Deere, or whatever. That's the field. 156 acres on that. 150. Oh, that adds up. Because I was about to say there should have been more. Usually it's 159.2 or something like that. But Dad sprayed out that little bit, and part of it is actually where we put the bins. This is my first time spraying it since we put the bins out. Anyhow, I think that's about enough for me. Thanks again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. And again, if you have any questions or comments that you want me to dig into, please let me know in the comments. Take care.